Hi there and good morning. We're going to be looking at a Smartdoll hat today. As you can see, I have my Mirai here and she is modelling our little teddy bear hat. We're calling it our honey bear hat. I'm sure you might recognise some of the colourings. There's certain bears that are out there, but I thought it was quite cute. So this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be using a double knit yarn. We have a 3.5mm crochet hook, and you see that. Really hard because it reflects with it being metal. There we go. And I have a stitch marker here because you will need one. I have my wool needle and I've also got these. Now this is what I did for the eyes. It's just two little circles of felt and I stitched them on. You can glue them on if you want, but I like to make sure my stuff's not coming off, so that is why I actually stitch it. So I'm going to move them to one side so I don't lose them. Obviously I have some scissors. Now this tiny little bit of yarn here is for our little mouth detail, so you only need a tiny bit there. You could use an embroidery thread if you've not got any black yarn or something similar. You don't even have to pop the mouth on. I do just think it finishes it though. So we'll move all that out of the way and we're going to pinch the hat off you, Mirai. Now we can have a good look at it. Now she's going to have really bad hair now. Oh, there we go. She's got hat hair, so we're going to move her over there. And this is the little hat. So we have the two colours there. We have these little ear flaps as well, which I think sort of make it quite cute as it sort of sits over the ears, ready for winter, for when it gets a bit colder. And something else you might notice when you look at it side on, the ears aren't central. There's a reason for that, and we'll talk about it later, but basically when it goes on the doll's head, it isn't central. So you have to do it on the head really. Every doll has a different size head and a different proportion. Even in this sort of size, even in this 1/3 scale, you'll find it sits differently on different ones. So it's always goes slightly forward, I find, for the Smartdoll, and that works out quite nicely. So we're going to get on with our little honey bear hat. Let's just squash it down there. Now we're starting at the top, so we're starting with the yellow. The stitches we're going to be using are UK terms, so please remember that. You may need a conversion chart handy if you're not used to UK terms, but they are basically double crochets and half trebles. Those are the stitches you need to know. So if you're not familiar with them, it might be worth sort of having a little sort of check out there and make sure you're going to be happy with them. So here we are. We're going to be starting with our slip knot. Pop it onto our hook, not too tight. We need a little bit of movement there. And I think this is clear enough here. I know I did reduce it down the other day, but I don't know whether it goes too close. We're going to try it, so excuse the change in camera angle. Let's see if it works. Ta-da! Think that's better? I think that's better. Right, here we go then. We're going to start with our 2 chain. We get a little bit of shadow though at this distance. I'm not sure about that. I don't normally get shadow, so I'm not quite sure where that's coming from. So we have our 2 chain there, and we're into that first chain now. We're going to do 6 double crochets. So in we go. Well, we will if I can get in there. I think I did my slip knot a little bit tight, but there we are. We're in now. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So that's our 6 double crochets. That's our first round. For our second round, we're going to do 2 double crochets in each of those 6, which of course will give us 12 double crochets then. So into that first one. If you're not sure where the first one is, I usually count from the back rather than the front, and you get your position better. So here we go. So 2 double crochets in number 1. 2 in number 2, 1 and 2 in number 3, and number 4. Where is it? I couldn't find it for a second then. That's 4, and in 5, and our last one in number 6. And pull that slip knot tight to make sure you've closed your hole up at the top there. Now this yarn does have a tendency to split. It's not my favourite brand of yarn. It's an okay yarn, but it does have a tendency to sort of just catch occasionally, which is a little bit annoying, but the colour was perfect. That's why I wanted the colour. So now we're going to actually move on to half trebles. and we're going to do 2 half trebles in every single one of those 12. So we'll end up with 24 half trebles. Now I'm not going to slip stitch, I'm not going to restart. I am literally going to go straight in to our next stitch with a half treble. Remember, we wrap the yarn once for a half treble, we go into the stitch, we pull it through. You should have 3 on the hook. Little twist of the yarn, because we're going to try and get through all 3. If you can't do all 3 at once, it doesn't matter, you can do them bit by bit. So this one I'm going to try for all 3, and it did it. The next one I'll show you bit by bit. Now we're going to go into the same space, because remember it's 2 in each one. So yarn round into the space, pull it through, and as I say, you've got 3 on the hook. It sometimes doesn't go smoothly, if depending again on what yarn you're using. So sometimes I've gone, oh, it's only gone through 2. That's okay though. Then go through the third one. As long as it's a clean sweep through all 3, doesn't matter if you do it in stages. So that was our first one with 2 half trebles. So our second one with 2 half trebles. Sometimes it's worth popping a stitch marker in here, but I'm going to be strict and count. So that's our second one with 2. Number 3 with 2. Number 4 with 2 half trebles. Number 5. Number 6, so we're halfway there. Remember, 2 in each, so we need 24 stitches at the end of this. Number 7. Number 8. Number 9. That's 2 in 9. You can always see, if you just sort of stretch it a little bit, you can see if you've put 2 stitches in there. Number 10. Two more sets. Number 11. And our last one. And number 12. So we have 2 half trebles in every single one of them, giving us now 24 stitches. So I know it's a half treble and I worked in a spiral system, but it is better than getting a line down your work. For example, if I'd not done this spiral, no matter how hard you try, you would get a very slight change all the way down. And it's just neater, I think, if you can do it in half trebles. And a spiral. Trebles don't really work because they're too long, but you can get away with it with a half treble. So I'm just marking off. I'm being good. I've actually got a pencil here, marking off where I am. I'm going to bring in my stitch marker now. I'm using my, she's called Lily this is one of our original characters. So Lily is going to pop in there like that, so it's marking off where I'm going to start, because it is going to get to a point now where we can't really see, unless you've got a nice quiet time where you can sit and count and be strict with it. So we've got 24 stitches. We now need 36 for our next one, and that's still in half trebles, and we're going to do 2 in this one, then a 1, a 2 and a 1 all the way around. You'll do that 12 times, so 12 sets, and we should end up with 36 stitches. Okay, so let's start with our first one that has 2 half trebles in it. That's our first stitch. The next one's only going to have 1 half treble. So that's our first set. In fact, I'm going to be good and I'm going to mark it down. So that is set number 1. Into our next one, 2 stitches. So we're just alternating. Into our next one, 1 stitch. Let's mark that down. Into my next one, 2. Doesn't want to go through that. There we go. And our next one, 1. That's another set. So that's 3 sets already done. Just pull a little bit of this yarn out so I don't get it caught or dropped on the floor. So we're going to go for 2 in the next one. These are still half trebles, remember, and 1 in the next one. You're going to be doing half trebles for a little while now, so I will tell you when we change stitch. So 2 in our next one, and 1 in the one after. That gives us 5 sets. You can see we're about halfway, so that sort of makes sense. And 2 and a 1. That's my 6. A 2. And a 1. If you find at any point it's going a little bit fast, just slow me down in the settings, or just sort of pause me, knowing you're going to be doing 12 sets of a 2 and a 1, a 2 and a 1, all the way around back to your stitch marker. So we have a 2 and a 1. Remembering to mark them down though, because I'm a nightmare for that. Then I suddenly think, how many have I got? If you've been doing it a while, you can sort of, well, you can count the stitches anyway if you want, but you sort of feel when you're round, even if you haven't got a stitch marker in. So we have a 2. But if you get distracted, the stitch markers, oh, worth the wait in cold. And a 1. If you haven't got a stitch marker, just use a little bit of yarn pulled through. Just be careful you don't catch it, because I've done that before now. Then the yarn's fallen out, and then I don't know where I am at all. But especially if you're working on something finer, it's not too bad when it's a double knit. So that's 10 sets. This looks about right. We have a 2. We have a 1. That's our set number 11. And yes, look, we have a couple of stitches left, so we're here. We're right on time. So we have a 2. And we have a 1, and I'm happy with that. We now have 36 stitches around. Now the next round is just 1 half treble in every single one of these stitches. I'm going to move my stitch marker up because half trebles are slightly longer stitches, so it does alter the position. So move your stitch marker up, and we're going to go all the way around, stitch marker to stitch marker, with just 1 half treble in each one. And as I say, if this goes a bit quick, just pause it now, and then just you do your half trebles and join me back when we get all the way round. There's always a way around with YouTube. That's the beauty of it. Stop, start, pause, speed up, slow down. There's all different things on the settings there. I think a beginner could do this hat quite happily if they're happy with the stitch. Sometimes it takes a bit of practice with certain stitches. But if you're happy with the stitch, I'd have a go. I think you should always challenge yourself anyway. So even if you're a bit, oh, I'm not sure about that, when you see a pattern somewhere, have a go. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's all about learning. And if you don't try something different, you sort of won't advance your skills. I'm constantly learning. I am nowhere near sort of knowing everything. Every day I'll sort of see something or hear something or read something, and I'm like, oh wow, I didn't know you could do that. So there's always something to learn, so always keep looking and having a go. These hats are a real fun way of doing it as well. You can see the yarn's caught then. I don't know why it catches, because it doesn't look particularly fluffy, but it is catching. And these hooks are usually quite good, so I'm pretty sure it's not the hook, because if you do have a poor quality hook, it will catch. You don't have to pay a lot of money for a hook. I mean, a couple of pound a hook is okay, between £2 and £3 sort of for an average hook is a good price, and they're usually really good at that. You do have to be careful sometimes though. We're almost round. You can see how it's curving round a little bit. That's okay. That's because we're doing a round where it's just 1 stitch in each, and as soon as you start doing that, it does curve the work a little bit. But we do, it's a hat after all, we do want some curving in there. Now the wool's getting annoying now because it's rolling about. I've got my tiny yarn ball, but it's no good putting these in. I could do with, I really need to find a different system. Right, we are round, so that is still 36 stitches because it was just 1 half treble in each stitch. Now we're going to do one more increase, and this increase is going to take us up to 48 stitches, and it's going to be 2 half trebles in the first stitch, but then 1 half treble in the next 2. Yep, so it's going to be a 2 1 1 2 1 1 all the way around. So again, if you want to sort of pause me or carry on, you can get on with that and meet me at the other end. It doesn't take too long, but this will give us now 48 stitches because there's going to be 12 sets of that 2 and then 1 1. Okay, so off we go. So we have a 2, we have a 1, we have a 1. I will mark it down. We have a 2, we have a 1, we have a 1. So that's our second set. We have a 2, we have a 1, and then we have another 1. So I did do 2 1s there, didn't I? Yes, I did. That's the only thing, when you've been doing a pattern on a previous round, it is sometimes you sort of relapse back into that round, so you sometimes need to check. So we have a 2, or a knot. I see it caught them. So that was our 2. Now we need 2 1s. 1 and 1. Okay, mark it down. That was 4th set. So we're going to have a 2, and then a 1 and a 1. That's set number 5. So we're almost halfway, which does make sense because usually if it sort of lines up and you're about halfway, you know you're doing okay there. So we have a 2, we have a 1, we have a 1. That's number 6. 2, a 1 and a 1. Number 7. We have 2, we have a 1 and a 1. Number 8. We have a 2, we have a 1 and a 1. That's our number 9, so we're almost there. Number 10 set now. So we have a 2, we have a 1 and a 1. So with 2 more sets to go. So this is set 11. Look, can you see what happens there? My yarn splits, so I'm taking it out. It's not worth it for the sake of a stitch not to take it out to make your work neat. So we have a 2. Or not, say that, I'm making a big zero of that, aren't I? Right, where's my 2? This is my 2, isn't it? I'm doing this, should be the second part of my 2. A 1 and a 1, and we have 1 more set left. And it does bring us back to the stitch marker nicely. So we have a 2, and then we have a 1 and a 1, and we are round. So that is looking good. We have 48 stitches now. Now on average, when I've done a Smartdoll hat, it's around that sort of, depending on what stitch you're using, of course, it's around the sort of 42 to 48 stitches. I find the half treble is usually 48. Of course, you do need to keep an eye on your tension, and every now and again try it on your doll to make sure. But after you've done a few, you'll go, oh well, yeah, mine's always there, or whether you need an extra row or you need to get rid of an extra row or something like that. So just keep trying it on your doll if it's your first one particularly, and write down if you notice there's a difference, because then when you make another hat, you will probably follow the same format. We now have 4 rounds of just our half trebles. So if you're going to sort of go ahead of me, I will see you in a minute, because after we've done these 4 rounds, we're going to be changing our colour. So you will need to come back to me for a little while then. But if you're going to be heading off, I will see you in a few minutes. If you're staying with me, I'm here to show you 4 rounds of just half trebles. And I'm just going to use stitch marker and just mark off when I've got to the end of that round. So you can see it's getting quite a bit bigger. And now what we need to do is curve it around. So off we go. And this is what this will start to do now. It's going to start curving it round properly so we get our little hat shape. I love doing these fun hats for the dolls. I just think they're a bit of fun. Did some great photographs with Mariah the other day, so you'll see some of them on the thumbnail. If you do follow my Instagram and my Facebook, you will see them on there as well. I'm sure I drive some of my friends mad with all the doll pictures I put up there, because obviously not all my friends are doll collectors, but to be honest, they all support me so well. My friends will see things that might be dolly related and they'll buy them for me, or they'll see things and send me videos of things, you know. So I'm very, very lucky, because I know there's some people out there in the doll community who are not supported. They are sort of treated sort of, I don't know, as if there's something wrong with them, and that makes me a little bit angry. If something makes you happy, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter what you collect. It's a doll. It's beautiful. It's either an ornament or a plaything or a photographic model or something for me. I mean, to make my crochet items for and things like that. And they're a great, the doll community is amazing. There's some lovely, lovely people out there. And I've made a lot of friends via that as well. But as I say, I'm very lucky. Sometimes some of my family members will roll their eyes. If I take a doll out with us, if we're going out for a day or something like that, they'll go, well, we knew that was going to happen, but they think it's funny and they sort of just join in with it anyway. So yeah, it's great. I'm very, very lucky for that. And I think they're pleased. It always makes it easy when it comes to birthdays and Christmases, because they can always find something for me to buy. So that's always good as well. So please don't be put off if you get people that are a bit negative. I think some people are just naturally negative just to, I don't know, make life miserable. If it makes you happy, you go for it. I'm certainly not ashamed of the doll collection I have, and the fact that I'll go to toy fairs, I go to the supermarket. One of the first things I do is go to the toy aisle, things like that. You know, I'm not bothered. But I think I've got to that age where things like that don't bother me as much, so don't let it bother you. Don't let people bother you. Right, we're almost round with our first round of our half trebles, and you can already see it is curving. So we're getting like a little basket at the moment. So I'm going to mark that down, and we're going to go for our round 2. So we don't need to stop start, we just keep going round and round in that spiral, which is our amigurumi-esque style. I say, I know traditionally amigurumi is predominantly double crochets, but I have found it does work really well with a half treble as well. And also the half treble is a little bit quicker than our double crochet, which is always good. Nice bit of quick crochet and gets finished and done is very satisfying. It's nice to do the big pieces because I've got a couple of blankets on sort of well, progress. Don't think I'll ever get to the end of them. It's just one of those things that I just keep doing. But I do like a quick fix, like a doll hat or a doll bag or something, you know, a little amigurumi toy, something like that. It's quite satisfying to get something done quite quickly. If any of you have got any Smartdoll guys or any 1/3 scale guys as well, and you make this hat for them, I'd love to see pictures. Because I still haven't got my Smartdoll boy, and the way it's looking, I don't think I'm ever going to get one, because now they're being, I'm a bit confused. They seem to be being sold in, or they will be, they're not split again, be careful for that. I get the impression they're going to be sort of kits, but I can't work out how it works. So at the moment I'm just gonna have to hold back. I think it would look really cute on one of the guys. Almost round for our second round, and it really is curling in now, which I'm pleased to see. If it didn't curl in, there's something wrong. Quite like half trebles because they do grow a little bit quicker than the double crochet as well. think the camera angle's working better at this. It's a little bit closer to me. I'm hoping I'm not going to be blurring it at any point, because I do have a tendency to lift the work, and I know the camera doesn't like that if you lift it too quickly. Sometimes it feels like it's going on forever. I mean, it's only 48 stitches, but if I started just counting 48 stitches, you'd probably fall asleep. So that's why I just said stitch marker to stitch marker. Right, so that is my second round down. I'm actually going to move my stitch marker up, because it, as I say, it does change position, particularly when you have a longer stitch. It wouldn't be the end of the world if you ended up with an extra stitch or two, but preferably you don't want that, because it is going to alter the size of the work you're doing. So you can see it's curling round, so we need to push it that way, because that's the side we want. So this is the right side facing. So I'll put a bit more yarn out and we'll get on with our third round. So we're halfway there with the yellow. I'm actually in the process of making some little ones of these as well for Cindy Doll, ready for when I go to DollyCon in October, because I have a stall there. So I know some of you that watch do go to DollyCon as well, so yay, we're excited. So obviously it was cancelled last year, so it should be a really good day. I really look forward to it. I'm a stall holder and an attendee, so I get both of best worlds. Both of best worlds? Best of both worlds even. So I can't wait. But I do have quite a few things I need to make for my stall. My stall is at Octopudding, for those who do go. It is a ticket only event, so if anyone's listening to me and thinking, oh, I want to go there, you can't just turn up at the door. And I do know the tickets are all sold out, but it is something to perhaps keep an eye out for in the future. That stitch marker is going to be annoying now, because it's hitting the table, because the work's getting a little bit bigger. But yeah, they do look super cute, the hats in small scale. I'm going to try and take them down even smaller for some of the tiny dolls, because I know some people do go to DollyCon with these little tiny ones. I've got some little tiny Ari dolls, which are German sort of vintage little rubber dolls. They are quite amusing. So I might make some of them, but of course I'm going to have to do that in a way finer yarn, and I actually haven't got any yellow 4-ply. Oh dear, that means I have to buy some more yarn. But I might actually do it in a cotton, as in an anchor number 8 cotton, which is a lot finer, because the dolls are really tiny. They don't really even a 4-ply you're pushing out. Nearly round. I say I'm hoping this, because this is getting bigger now, I'm just hoping it's not getting too near the camera. For you to be able to see. It's a problem. I can sort of see the camera where I'm sat. I am sat above it. This is why, like I say, I pull the work a little bit too close to me, because I'm above the camera and the camera's between me and my work. I want it to be close, but I can't really check it until I've finished. I think it's okay. I hope it's okay. My camera work's not brilliant. It's certainly a lot better than when I first started, because looking back at some of my early videos, I'm like, oh, it's a bit blurry and things, and I don't know whether to redo them or leave them, because people still seem to be looking at them and using them, so I can't make up my mind on that one. Right, so that is our 3 rounds, and you can really see we have a little hat shape now. Getting caught. We'll do one more round and we'll try it on Mariah before we go any further. You find though, when you do move on to your double crochets, get that caught. No, I don't want 2, I want 1. There we go. Double crochets will tighten it up. So don't over panic if this feels a little loose on the doll's head, because as I say, as soon as you change to a double crochet stitch, it makes things slightly tighter. It's a great way of shaping doll clothes as well, that. sort of, so you can go from sort of a treble down to a double crochet, for example, or a slip stitch even, and it will tighten the work or loosen the work depending on what stitch, just enough to sort of give a subtle bit of shaping. So it is a good way of shaping. And also the longer stitches, like this half treble, have more stretch to them, where if you go down to the smaller stitches, obviously it's tighter, so you don't get as much stretch. So if you're wanting an outfit, for example, especially with the Smartdoll, because of the size of the bust on it, sometimes you're sort of having to stretch things over a little bit, a half treble is a good one to go without having to overly fit. I prefer to see a double crochet on things like that, but you've then got to start doing a lot of fitting and shaping, which I enjoy doing, but I don't really think it works for a video because, again, everybody's tension's different. Yeah, it just makes it a little bit harder to explain. So I'll be glad when I get round, because this stitch marker's now starting to annoy me. So clatter, 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 clatter. So, in fact, let me try and pick it up. I've picked it up, it's not touching the table. It's a bit clumsy to hold the work, but it stops it clattering. It's going to drop at some point out of my hand. Oh, it is. So this is our last half treble round. I know most of you aren't actually with me. You've probably whizzed off and got your half treble rounds done, or you've paused me to take your time to do your half treble rounds, but I don't mind if I'm chuntering away to myself. Chuntering, it's just chattering. If you're not sure what I mean when I say that, it's just chattering, talking. I'm quite good at talking to myself, so it's not a problem. We're almost there. And we're getting ready to change the colour of the yarn. Now, as far as yarn change is concerned, it is entirely up to you how you do it. I'm going to do it one way, but if you have a better way to change your colours, please do whatever you're used to doing. Nearly to that noisy stitch marker now. The stitch markers wouldn't normally bother me because I'd have the work closer to me if it was just me doing it. And ta-da! Now this is how I am going to now change the colour. So we're going to be bringing our red in. I'm going to take my stitch marker out a moment. Now what I'm going to do is on my next stitch, I'm going to just bring it down to a slip stitch. Yeah. It just sort of flattens off the round as if we're starting again. Now there's two ways now. You can either just pick it up or you could fasten that off and start again, but we don't need all this yarn now, so I can get rid of some of that. We will need it for the ears, of course, but yellow can go away now. And we said we'd have a little look on how it will fit on Mariah's head. Her wig's disappeared as well because of that. So always check on your doll's head. So if I think that is, it sort of needs to fit, so it's not too tight, because as I say, the double crochets are going to bring it in, so there needs to be a little bit of movement, but I think that's comfortable, so it just slots on the head rather than you having to force it on. So that's okay. We'll pop you back away again, missus. Oh, a leg is caught. There we are. So excuse me a moment, I thought I was going to cough then. We have our red, and this is entirely up to you how you do it. We're changing to red, and we're going to do 5 rounds of just double crochets. Okay, so I'm going to get this on my hand ready. Move my scissors out of the way again. I have my pencil ready. I also have my stitch marker because we're gonna need that back in place. So let me just pull that up like that, and because that was a slip stitch, it's a lot lower now, so I can grab my yarn, pull it tight there, and directly below here I'm going to do a double crochet. Yep, and there we go, and I'm off now. I'm off. There might be a slight dip, unfortunately. Sometimes because it's spiral, that happens. You will get that. Now remember, we're on double crochets now. I think I'm actually faster with double crochets, even though it's a shorter stitch, because I do so many of them compared with the half trebles. So now, as I say, we're going to do 5 rounds. If you're wanting to whiz off or pause me here is a good time to do it. If you're wanting to do that, just have your pen and paper ready to mark down your actual rounds. And off we go with our 5 rounds in red of double crochets. Undo the yarn a bit. This is quite a nice red, this. It's not, I don't know, it's not really quite a red as I call it, a pillar box red. It's sort of slightly on the softer side, which I actually prefer where reds are concerned. Red's a funny yarn to use as well. I do find on the camera it glares. It's not the best colour. That's why when it comes to Christmas, sometimes the Christmas videos are quite hard to do, because you've got dark greens for your evergreens, you've got reds for berries, red for Father Christmas, all these reds and that, and they're all colours that really don't film very well. So I sort of dread it. I love doing the Christmas stuff, but then I'm always conscious of what colour. That's why, as I say, I use a red that's slightly duller. Not duller, that's wrong, darker. It's a slightly darker red than sort of the traditional pillar box red, because it's not quite as bad on camera. Oh, we're almost round already. Look at that. Nearly round for first 1 round. Now sometimes it feels a little bit funny here because it's a little bit tight, you know, from us obviously changing stitch, but don't worry too much. And we're just going to continue round. It has made a very tiny, it's a tiny drop, but nothing major. So I'm going to put this stitch marker back in, and then we can sort of whiz off and get our double crochet rounds done. So that was round 1 of 5, and off we go. It's squeaky, this wool as well. I didn't notice. I don't think the yellow was squeaky, but this one's actually squeaking a little bit with my hook. I think probably it's just changing the actual type of stitch, because obviously a double crochet is tighter, isn't it? So obviously the hook is going through a tighter point. That's probably why it's squeaking. Got a squeaky hook. Now, of course, I've done these in these particular colours, because I just thought it was cute, and obviously it reminded me of a certain little character out there. But you could still do a bear hat and just do it in a brown, or you can do it in a pink, or it's just a bear hat really, isn't it? So you can choose whatever colours you want. That stitch marker's at it again. We'll have to put up with it, I think. Because as I say, I can't lift it any higher because I'm going to blur it out otherwise. If you do enjoy my channels as well, don't forget to subscribe. I'm alright saying this at this point because probably I say most of you have paused it. But please subscribe. It does make a big difference to us YouTubers, especially when we're sort of trying to build it up. Sort of it helps us to be able to create more content, as obviously if we do get a little bit of money through YouTube, as the little bit of finances come through. But you need subscribers as well for that, I'm afraid. I am trying to sort of do at least 1 crochet a week at the moment, and 1 doll item a week. I know sometimes the crochet is doll related as well, but the theory was I was going to do a Halloween piece as well this week. That has not happened, and today being Saturday, it's going to be chaotic. It always is a Saturday, so I don't think I'm going to get much more done. So that's my second round. You can see there's not a bad join, that is it, without faffing about. I know there are better ways of doing it, but I think that's relatively neat. I'm quite happy with that. So we're on our round 3. So It's all right while the stitch marker's on this first bit. It's when it gets to the bottom it becomes annoying. You have to just listen to the squeaky bits. Hopefully it doesn't sound like when you sort of run your nails down a chalkboard. I bet, to be honest, you know, that's an expression, or that's a thing that people say about. But to be perfectly honest, depending on what age group you're at, you probably haven't got a clue what that means. Because I'm presuming, well, I know from my children alone, let alone my grandchildren, the chalkboard isn't really, I mean, my grandkids love a chalkboard and get some chalk out, but at school and places like that, is it something that's still there? I know it was Smartboards last time I saw with my children. So yeah, you're using sort of like some projectory type things, or they're using marker pens. So gone are the days of just a chalkboard. That makes me feel really old. That's terrible. Never mind. I've decided I'm going to call myself vintage now. I'm not old, I'm vintage. The only problem is, I would mind you saying that, I think you've got to get to 100. Well, an object has to get to 100 to be antique. So if I get to 100, I would be over the moon, and I probably wouldn't care about being called antique. I think I've just gone past retro. I think I'm now into vintage. I'm not sure. I don't think you should classify people like that. I don't think it is a classification for people, in fact. Just a funny thought. Right, we are now round with our 3 rounds. We have just 2 more rounds to go. So you can see our hat is shaping up really nice there. And we'll say 2 more rounds, and then we just got the ear flaps to do. So off we go again. You don't really need to move the stitch marker for 4 or 5 rounds. You get away with it. It would very, very slightly alter it, maybe take it over a stitch, but not enough for it to be an issue. Really wish my fan wasn't noisy. It gets very warm sat under this lamp, especially as it's obviously warmer weather at the moment. Can't wait for the autumn. I am not a hot weather person, I'm afraid. I like it when it becomes autumn and the nights here get a little bit darker, and yeah, that's how I like it. My daughter's getting married this year, and we are having an autumn wedding, so that should be nice. So she's having lots of autumny colours as well in it. So we're a bit on countdown, so that's a bit of another reason why life's a little chaotic at the moment, and I'm not getting things done like I should. I mean, it's all exciting. Now, I say this is round 4. Again, this could be a time you need to look on how it is fitting on your head. Not on your head, on your doll's head. Because some dolls have a deeper crown and some dolls have a shallower crown. So sort of the point of the head down to sort of the eyebrow area can vary on different dolls. So you might pop this on your doll and go, that's enough. That's long enough. Or you might think, oh, it's a little bit short on her head. Because as much as I've put it up for a smart doll, I do understand that it will be going on other dolls as well, as long as they've got an approximate head size of the smart doll. Nearly there. Yay! We are now on our last round. Well, of just double crochets, that is. So we're on our home run now. So have a try it on your doll after that 4th one. And if you think it's a little bit too short or a little bit too long, but remember there is another round after this. So remember you're going to be adding on a little bit of depth there. Sometimes for the first hat you make, it is a little bit trial and error, I'm afraid. Not just this hat, any hat that you're making for your doll for a first time. Until you do, as I mentioned before, get used to your tension and sort of how it works for you. You might find you need to reduce your hook size. I mean, this is a 3.5. If your work is particularly loose, sometimes just going down a hook size is enough. and yarns will vary as well. I mean, as I say, this is a double knit yarn I have here in the UK. I am very aware that the yarns have different names in different areas. Again, there are conversion charts out there, but even here, if I go into one shop and buy a double knit yarn of one brand, and then go into another shop and buy a double knit yarn of another brand, and I try and work them together, I will quite often find that there is a tiny weeny thickness difference. I suppose they can't all keep to 100% standard. I presume there's some sort of, I know it comes down to the ply of the yarn and things like that, but you do have to be careful to try and be consistent with your yarns. We know we're nearly there because the stitch markers stop making that annoying noise. Now, if you don't want to pop the ear flaps on that I've put on here, this is your last bit. I just thought it looked cute. And if you really wanted to, you could hang some little plaits off them, some little yarn plaits. That always looks cute too. I've done that on a few of my hats. I think it's the Valentine's one on here that I did that with. So if you wanted to sort of see how I did the plaits on there, I'll put the link on for that one, I think. Never sure which ones to put on, but I will put that on. So we are round. We now just need these little tiny ear flaps, which are really, really easy to do. I said it was just half trebles and double crochets. It's not. We're going to actually do some trebles now. So into my next stitch, I'm going to do 3 trebles. Seems a lot, but trust me, it works. So treble, remember, like that. Yarn round, in, pull through 2 and pull through 2. One more. Now we're also going to do 3 trebles in our next stitch as well. 1, 2 and 3. Now the next bit is going to come down to a little bit of guesswork for you. I know I can write an exact number down, but I like to sort of guess some of my work because I like to measure it on the doll. Again, depending on when your ear placing is on the doll, dolls have different ears, things like that. Basically though, you're looking at about, you need an ear flap about halfway across. So you're looking at about here to create your next ear flap. So all I'm going to say is double crochet until you get to your halfway mark. If you want to sort of sometimes pop a stitch marker. In fact, we'll do that. We'll take that out a second. We'll fold it over. We get our halfway mark and I'm going to pop my stitch marker in. That'd be a great way of marking it off, wouldn't it? Or a piece of yarn or something like that. So from now on, into the next stitch, it's just a double crochet, and it's just going to be just a double crochet until we get round to our stitch marker, or just one stitch before that stitch marker. Because remember, this ear flap actually takes the equivalent to 2 stitches, so it's not exact center that you want. So it's just a double crochet all the way around until we get near that stitch marker, and then we can double check is where we want it. In fact, if I bring this one in, can you see I did go central with that one? But again the head sizes are different, proportions can be different, so just check on your doll, because you don't want sort of the ear flaps to be behind their ears or in front of their ears, because that would look a little bit odd. We're already there. Oh, we're nearly there. And we'll stop there. I'm going to take my stitch marker out, and I'm going to do 3 trebles and 3 trebles. Yes, it definitely glares this red a little bit, so apologies for that if it's a little bit difficult to see because of the colour. I couldn't resist this colour combination though. So that's our 3 trebles in that one. So we want 3 trebles in the next stitch as well. 1, 2 and 3. And all we're going to do now is 1 double crochet all the way to the next ear flap, and then the actual hat structure is completed. So just one double crochet in each stitch up to the first ear flap. At least the stitch marker's not clattering now. Couple more stitches to go. I'm going to go right up to it, and then my last one's going to be a slip stitch just there, and we have finished our actual hat. Of course he needs some ears, bless him. So that's our hat. So we'll pop the hat to one side. I'm going to pop it on the doll in a second, but I just wanted to go through one ear. I'm not going to do both ears because I don't, obviously they're the same. So we're just going to do making of one ear, and it is really easy. It just starts like this hat did. So we have our slip knot. Obviously it's going to be a lot smaller. We're going to do our 2 chain, and we're going to do our 6 double crochets in here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So we have 6 double crochets there. We're going to double that up to our 12. So we're going to have 2 double crochets in each stitch. That's our first one. Careful that yarn splitting. 1 and 1 in number 1. 2 in number 2. 2 in number 3. In number 4. Where have I gone there? That's it. This is number 4, isn't it? 2 in number 4. 2 in number 5. And 2 in our last one, number 6. So we now have, just tighten that up, we now have 12 stitches. We need a little bit more than 12 to make the ear. We need 18. So we're going to do a 2 and a 1, a 2 and a 1 all the way around, and you're going to have that 6 times, and it'll give us 18 stitches. Okay, so we can just count them. We don't need a stitch marker for that, do we? So that's a 2 and a 1. That's our first set. We're going to have a 2 and a 1. That's our second set. 2 and 1. Set 3. 2 and 1. Set 4. Let me move back to the centre a bit. We have 2 and a 1. That was set 5. So we've got one more set. We have 2 and we have a 1. Now that is it. That is, well, it's not the ear finish, but that is as much increasing as you're going to have. You're now going to have 3 rounds. I said 5 then, that'll make a long ear. We need 3 rounds of just 1 double crochet in each one. Now there's 18 stitches. I will pop the stitch marker in because obviously I'm talking, but I think you could count 18 stitches quite comfortably. So here we go. I'm not going to count. I'm going to just rely on my stitch marker, and I want 3 rounds of this. So this is our first round. You can see it's already starting to curve, so it does get a little bit harder to hold. And the stitch marker will get in the way, I'll warn you. So that's round 1. So this that's inside now should be our outside, so push it out. Yes, you push it out. We need 2 more rounds. Again, because it's only three rounds, you don't really need to move the stitch marker. You can just leave it where it is for all three. Usually rule of thumb, I usually move mine up between 3 and 4. Because there is only 3, I don't need to. On each, just a single double crochet round. Shouldn't say single double crochet, just on a double crochet round. Each time it sort of pulls the ear a little bit further round. We have one more round to go, because you can see we're getting a proper little dome there now. That would make a tiny hat. I think it'd be a little bit too chunky though, that's why, as I say, it's not so much making the hat for the tiny ones, like that would make a hat perhaps, but then it's the detail, like the ears for it and things like that, so that's where you do need a much finer yarn and a much smaller hook, of course. So this is our last round for the ear. Just a couple more stitches. Two more. And we can say we're finished. Now I'm going to do a slip stitch, because I always do finish my work off with a slip stitch. So, but you don't have to. That's just something I do. So, got to be careful not to move it. Right. Stitch marker out. Yarn cut. Now make sure this is long enough to actually use to sew on. So don't make it too short. So we're going to fasten that up, and then I'm just going to show you one other little trick before we try it on the doll. Now pull this tight, because you don't want a little hole appearing here. So pull this nice and tight, and you can either cut that off or just stuff it in. I've stuffed it in because it just gives a little bit more padding. Now I'm folding the ear, so this is on the edge. Yeah, let's grab that needle, and I'll show you why I did this. Threading the yarn through. It just shapes the ear before we put it on. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to fold my ear in half. And I'm going to pop it through there like that. And I'll do it once more. And then I'm going to put it through the loop. Slowly do it so it doesn't knot. And it just holds the ear shape. That is why I have done that. So I'm going to grab my Mirai again. Bring you right over here. I'll have to brush your hair when we've done. Now you need to sew your ends in, of course, but I don't usually do that on video, so I'll let you sew your ends in how you choose to. And I'm just going to pop a hat on. Yep, that fits nicely. I think she looks really cute there. And this is what I was saying about the ear position. When I'm first doing it, after I've done the first one, I'm okay with it, and I'm aware where my ears and things go on my dolls now. But basically, I've got to decide where they are going to go. Now, as I say, for the Smartdoll, it does sit slightly forward of the doll. Now, I can't sew it on the doll for the video because you won't be able to see me do it. So I'm just gonna, I know it's approximately there. I'll just pop that in there. So I'm gonna move her out of the way again. Keep moving her about, don't we? Over there. But yes, ideally, to start with, do it on your doll so you know. So I'm going to position my ear. I'm not going to fully do this in case I decide it's wrong. And I'm just going to pick up one piece, pick up another piece, pick up one piece. This is really caggy-handed for how I normally do it. And you're just going to sew all the way around all this bit here. So you want all this here to sit down onto the hat. Stitch all the way around and finish it off with a slip knot, and then I just usually thread the yarn through the ear to take it out of the way. Now, as far as the details were concerned, as I said, I cut out some little circles. I do have a die cutter, so it does make life easier. 2 little buttons would look quite cute as well if you've got some buttons about this size, so you could do it that way. You could pop some little eyelashes if you were doing some embroidery detail or something like that. But I do stitch mine just because I prefer to make sure it's not going anywhere. And then as far as this yarn is concerned, it was a case of making a little knot, pulling it through, over to the other side and making a little knot. So it looks like it's got a little got a moustache there. That's not really the look we're going for. So that's the only reason I've done that. So your facial decoration can be how you want. It doesn't have to be a little straight mouth, a little W mouth, a little V mouth. There's lots of different ways of doing it. So I'm going to leave it there for you to decide how you want your mouth doing. So that's it all. That's it. We've done it. You need another ear, of course, but we have done our little Smartdoll hat. So Mirai back in, and we'll pop her original Pooh Bear hat on. Definitely going to have to sort your hair out, missus. And ta-da! There she is in her very cute, I called it a Pooh Bear hat. It is a Pooh Bear hat, isn't it? It looks like Pooh Bear a little bit. It's an homage to Pooh Bear, should we say. I'm going to call him my honey bear hat because obviously bears like honey, and I think it is really, really cute. So again, if you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe and share. And I would love to see some images. If you've made it, just tag me on Instagram or something like that. I know I do have 2 Instagram pages. One just for Smartdoll and one for everything that I do, my life basically, and my other dolls. So either way, it doesn't matter which one. If you do follow one of them, just send me a little sort of tag to say that you've done it, and I love to see what people have made. So thank you very much for watching. As I say, please like, subscribe and share, and click on that notification bell to make sure you know when I'm doing my next video. So I will see you all very soon. Bye bye for now.